So, welcome to Diary of a Private Investigator. This is episode 5. My name is Nathan and I own and run Dallas Investigations based in Sheffield and Doncaster. And yes, we do the introduction live every episode because last episode I went Sheffield and Doncaster based in Sheffield. And anybody who lives in Doncaster will know it is a separate city of its own. So we are live. I've had a bit of engagement recently from various listeners to the episode. I seem to be getting positive reviews. People are liking it. So that's always good. So as always, at the start of the episode, I'm going to say that if you do enjoy the episode, please do leave a positive review. Please do subscribe. And please do tell your friends. I don't do much social engagement. However, I have started doing TikTok, which seems to be growing quite a bit. So if you are on TikTok, I'm on TikTok under Dallas Investigations. Have a listen to that. We do take snippets from the episode and put it on TikTok, so you might be a slight bit of duplication, but I'll probably put in some other unique information on TikTok as well as that is in the episode. So if you listen to that, that's all brilliant. Today's episode is going to be slightly different in respect of it's not just going to be me sat here talking about all the war stories and all the good stuff that I get into. Today I've got a guest, so it's not going to be a very good episode because I'm not going to be doing much talking and I love talking. So unfortunately, you're going to have to listen to another private investigator who's going to regale us with his background and his business. It's a slightly different business sort of structure to my own. My business is called Dallas, D-O-L-O-S, Dallas Investigations, because Dallas is the Greek spirit of cunning and guile. However, my guest today is a titan, and he is one of the elder gods in the Greek world, which shows his status within the private investigation industry. Run by, I'm sure you know this, Simon, that the Titan was run by Cronus, who was the god of Zeus. And Zeus usurped his father and banished him to Tartarus with all the other Titans. Is that the reason why you chose Titan as your business name?
No, it's not, but it sounds quite cool, doesn't it? No, it's not. So the reason I called my business Titan was because when I left the police, which I'm sure we'll come on to shortly, I spoke to my wife and said, what do I call my company? I don't want to call it SH Investigations, Simon Henson Investigations, anything like that. And I came up with Titan because Titan featured massively in my police career. I worked at a covert unit called Titan House. Titan. Titan was born.
And that's where it comes from. So yes, without further ado, this is Simon Henson. He runs Titan Surveillance Limited for its full name. Is that correct?
Titan Private Investigation Limited.
Titan Private Investigation Limited. You are more of a national-based company. I sort of concentrate within the sort of the South Yorkshire, anywhere within sort of 40, 50 miles of Sheffield, which for those who don't live in England, pretty much covers a third of the country, because I can go to the East Coast, the West Coast, down to sort of Leicester, Birmingham, up towards Bradford and Leeds and what have you. So that I concentrate there. You, however, have offices up and down the country, have multiple people working for you, and you're on a lot larger scale. You are the managing director of that. So one of the questions that I've avoided answering on the podcast so far is, how do you become a private investigator? So we'll get on to that, about how you run a course, how you become a private investigator. You also run Titan, was it Titan TV?
Yep, YouTube channel,
Titan TV. So we'll come on to that as well. But first of all, we'll start with, as you just alluded to, you are also an ex-police officer. How did you get into the PI world?
Okay, where do I start? Okay, so if we go through my career, I did 17 years with Notts Police, 4 years in uniform, and then I went into covert policing, where I ended up as a detective sergeant running surveillance teams on an East Midlands counter-terror unit. Then austerity hit. I'd had 17 years of having fun, firearms, running around, following suspected terrorists, and then decided that I wanted to go up the ranks. Then austerity hit. There was a freeze on all promotion. I think Notts Police had to save 20 million in 3 years. Loads of job cuts. Pension reform happened. So I decided to leave the police, but my intention was always to go back. you can go back within 5 years and you don't have to go through police training again. So my intention was to go out there, see what the big world holds, and see where that takes me, with the wholly intention of going back to the police as soon as austerity's over, and then having some more fun there. That didn't happen though. So I founded Titan back in 2014, so we're 10 years now. I got into it initially as a subcontractor, so I was introduced through various groups to an individual in the West Midlands who runs an established surveillance company. He took me under his wing. I wasn't a threat geographically, and he basically showed me how it all works, how you price things, where the work is, and he gave me a lot of work as a subcontractor. I then built the business up, got an office in Derby, and then I think it was about the 5-year point, the phone started to ring. I was no longer a subcontractor. I was able to self-generate my own work, and then the company slowly grew, and it has been slow, but we've got to where we are today. 9 offices from London to Manchester. I'm based at the Derby office, with national work coming in on a daily basis.
So what I do like about the private investigation world is what I touched upon in a previous episode is that we all pull together in the same direction. Obviously, we're both ex-police, ex-job, and I sort of, from my personal experiences, when people want to get promoted, they're happy to stand on you. If you're vying for different jobs or whatever, then there's a bit of cutthroat. What I do like about this is that obviously you were taken under your wing by, I'm assuming, Melvin
at MR,
yeah. If he's listening, hello, Melvin. So, I mean, Melvin and I run a Facebook group together for private investigators. So you obviously taken under his wing. I met you about 5 years ago when I left the police, and we worked together. And I have a similar story where I took work from you for some time, and then thought, I think I'll set up my own business. And I'm sort of probably 5 years behind you, but as I've sort of mentioned, my plan is not to go national. I want to sort of concentrate local and just be busy myself. You've obviously got a different plan, and you're growing and growing and growing. When you were talking, I was smiling because you sort of said I had a master plan to go back to the police.
Definitely.
So I was smiling, thinking that it's so much better running your own business and not being beholden to management in the police. So what sort of happened while you were on your career break that you suddenly thought, do you know what, I'm just not going back?
I think it's growing something which you own. So when you're employed, you can work all the hours God sends. However, you probably won't get remuneration for that, certainly not in the police. And you probably won't get anything for it. Whereas when you're building your own business, you see on a daily basis goals which you reach. You obviously see the financial remuneration. But for me, it's more work-life balance. Initially, it was completely skewed because I was working like 18 hours a day if I could. I took any work. I was a bit of a yes man as a subby. But now I'm office-based. I get to the office at 8, 9 in the morning. I come home at lunch. I let the dog out. I work from home in the afternoon, and I get to do the school drop-off, school pick-up. There's no shifts. I dictate where and when I work. And I'm in an office now. So I'm not all over the country. But you have to do that, I think, to get your name out there and to be able to finance building a company.
Yeah. When I still get CVs sent me, people applying to be a private investigator. Inevitably, when you tell people what you do at parties or social functions or networking events and things like that, and you sort of say, I'm a private investigator, inevitably like, oh, it's brilliant, I'd love to do that. And obviously we've got some good stories, hence the podcast. We have some exciting times, but we also have the sort of the mundane sort of stuff as to what we get up to as private investigators. Obviously, one of the things that you did is that you've grown the business, and you obviously you put yourself out there. At which point did you think, I'm going to run my own business rather than just be a subby, because it's kind of like a defined career path?
So I think from the start, I knew that I didn't want to be a subcontractor, and I aspired to be an office-based and self-sufficient. However, it takes time because you've got to have finance in place. It is difficult. It is difficult. And it brings pressure as well on you. Certainly one of the biggest things for me with staff is cash flow. So some of your jobs might be 90-day turnaround with companies because we are 8% corporate, 20% private. So terms and conditions can be hard and certainly help. Well, it harms your cash flow. But I think to answer your question from the start.
Right. That was always your plan to.
Yeah.
Right.
But as we spoke to before recording, would I do it the same? Probably not. It would be a lot easier to be a subcontractor earning £200-300 a day and not having all of the hassle.
Don't tell them how much we earn. Everybody will want to do it if they know how much we earn.
We need more people doing it. That's the problem.
Well, that therein lies the problem, because obviously, sort of like I said, my story was I started off as a subby, and then when you make your contacts and you sort of see what you can do, I kind of set up my own business. And I know we've had a conversation in the past about the difficulty in getting staff to work for you because they either drop off and do something else or they create their own business.
Yeah.
And what I do always remember and what I do like is that even though I sort of kind of subcontracted for you, there was no animosity when I then set up my own business. It wasn't a case of flipping heck, I've sort of took him under my wing and now he's competition. We still talk to each other. We still work with each other.
It's the same across the whole industry, I think. So Melvin took me under his wing. He owns MR Investigations in Coventry. No geographical threat because he just deals with Birmingham and Coventry. Dan Burke, who was on one of your episodes, I think it was the last one. Dan used to be my go-to operative. I can't get hold of him for love nor money now, and he owns his own company, which is effectively the same geographic area.
Yeah.
I will help Dan out. Dan will help me out. Yeah. When you came into it, I gave you work. I worked with you personally on a few jobs when I couldn't get to. So I came onto the ground. No animosity at all. You having your own business. We all help each other. Give each other a step up, I think.
I think that's what I like about it, that we do help each other out and we pool resources. I think sometimes people think that there's these officers out there, they've got a big box of detectives all just waiting for work, and sometimes it's not quite like that. We've all got specialities. I've talked on previous episodes about, I mean, I'm ex-detective sergeant, you're ex-detective sergeant. We've got police skills that are specific to more investigation-based as opposed to surveillance, because there are two different sides to being a PI. One is just surveillance. The other one is the investigative world, where you look at all the other sort of things that we do. Obviously, we've just mentioned about the sort of the lack of operatives out there, and we both get a lot of inquiries saying, "I'd love to do what you do. I want to do what you do." You actually run a training course for, would you say, private investigators, or do you run a surveillance course?
It's a surveillance course for anybody. So lots of people that inquire say, "I've not had a police or military background, not done surveillance before." Is that an issue? Absolutely not. Some of the best operators we've got do not come from a police or military background. In fact, I generally say that police, a bit stereotypical, but they potentially struggle a bit, because in the police, when you work in a surveillance team, you'll probably have 16 operatives out. You'll have a full ops room running. You'll have 2 bikers, and people can be carried. In this industry, let's be right, it's going to be 2 or 3 people on a team, probably in single crewed vehicles, and there is no room for anybody to be carried. Sometimes that transition from working in a big team can be a massive hurdle. So personally, best operatives we've ever had is someone that we can mould on our course into what we want them to be, and they're not coming with any bad habits, or we're not having to retrain bad habits.
I think a lot of people would be quite excited to hear that, because it's like any industry, people want to break into. I was thinking about that on the sort of the drive down, where people will ask me, how do you become a private investigator? And it's almost like, if I threw it around and said, how do you become an accountant? How do you become a bricklayer? How would you become this? It's no different. It's a trade craft that we have, and a skill set and an occupation, but it's the same answers, really. You beat on everybody's door. You try and get the experience. You try and learn from people. You make the contacts. You network, And you, like you said, I think one of the biggest things is that if you do get a foot in the door, you just work for everybody, everywhere, all the time, and just get it out there. So your course, let's talk about a bit about your course, because I'm sure that this episode is kind of going to go focus on answering the question of how do I become a private investigator in the UK. So your course, people obviously contact Titan Private Investigators. You run a course. How many courses do you run, and what sort of qualifications do you get?
So we run 4 courses a year. We are predominantly an operational company. The only reason we got into training was because 2017 we outgrew our resourcing structure, so we had to do something about it, because there's nothing worse than paying good money for being there on Google, top pages, getting inquiries through, which goes to instruction, and then you can't resource it. So I thought about it. In the police, I was a surveillance trainer. And it made sense to try and introduce individuals to the industry, because it's completely unregulated. Anyone can be a private investigator. You could just have a car license, a driving license, a camera, glossy website, and there you are, you're set up.
Yep.
There's no entry level. So we decided to précis the 7-week police surveillance course down to 5 days. I mean, I would like it to be a 7-week course, but commercially, it's just not viable. 1, it's going to cost you about $7,000, and 2, it's 7 weeks off work. So we've priced a basic course down to 5 days. That was in 2017. It wasn't a certificate course initially. In 2020, so it was during COVID, we partnered up with the IPI, which is the Institute of Professional Investigators, and we started to deliver an RQF level 4 certificate course, which sits just above an A level, and you attain that in 5 days. So it's a tough course. So yeah, people will contact us. I think most people in the industry have heard of Titan. I think we have a good reputation for our course, the quality of it. But secondly, I think people choose Titan over any other, because we have a growth student aftercare program in place. And this aftercare program, effectively, once someone has paid for the course and successfully completed it, we then feed them work. We mentor them, we develop them, and they start working within the industry and finding their own feet. Probably 6 to 12 months after, we'll never be able to get hold of them, like Daniel Burke, never get hold of him anymore. Not that he did our course, but people find their feet. Yeah. They might go down the route you did and Dan did. You'll get your own business, and then you start getting your own work, and therefore you're not punting yourself out as a subcontractor anymore. So each to their own. But we do have, I mean, we ran a course in, what month are we in now? June, in May. And I think everybody on that course, of which there was 9, have all worked for me on multiple times since then in their geographic area. So it's not something we say, come and do a course with us and we'll give you work, and it's empty. It's not. You will get work. We're not guaranteeing you work. However, we will give you the opportunity to take work if it fits in with your lifestyle, geographically, how far you're willing to travel, etc.
So I'm just making a few notes there for some questions. So you did, obviously one of the key parts of your course is the growth part of it that you mentioned in respect to that. You obviously, once you've passed the course, you can then be fed work. To your knowledge, is there any other courses out there that have got that kind of system in place?
Not to my knowledge. However, I mean, there's not that many surveillance training companies out there now. There are a few, but I think the majority of them are London-based. There was a very well-known one for 20-odd years up in North Yorkshire, no longer trading. So I think, really, we are probably the only one, I think, which can actually offer you work post-course. I mean, don't get me wrong, we all offer the same course. If it's an RQF level 4, it is stringently monitored.
Right.
So you can't, they all offer a brilliant course. But what you need to ask yourself is, okay, I'm going to do a brilliant course. You will get more on the Titan course because our syllabus, because we want to use you, or a learner, we want to use them, we have to make sure that they are up to speed to work and represent Titan. But also that, they're representing Titan because they may be working for other companies. So we need to make sure that they are up to speed. But yeah, I think we are probably the only one which is offering post-course work.
Right. Okay. So the RQF, the RQF 4 is a sort of a standard qualification up and down the country. You can leave that one in, by the way, Adam. I don't mind. It's qualification up and down the country. But obviously, to be a private investigator is an unregulated business, so you don't have to do the course. But obviously, you kind of sort of said, and I mean, we do come across cowboys in this business, and it's a massive thorn in our side because, I mean, I've had it where people have gone to a rogue company that is still on Google to this day, and they've been stung. They paid a lot of money, and either get no product at the end or they get mobile phone footage, which any Tom, Dick and Harry can do. So it's important that we obviously professionalise the industry with that sort of qualification. So one of the key questions there will be probably from the listeners is does everybody pass, or is it a pass or fail course?
Pass or fail course. So throughout the course, you have throughout the days. So day one is foot surveillance. So you're learning the ABC formation, clearing corners, etc. Day two, you do public transport, so following a subject on public transport. Day three is mobile surveillance. Day four, you revisit everything, so there's no skill fade. And then day five, which you've been involved with as a stranger subject for the learners, is the final exercise, which is as close as we can get to a live operational deployment in the training environment. I've actually forgot your question.
No, I said, is it a pass or fail?
It is, yeah. Okay, so that's where I was going with it. So effectively, there will be one-to-one debriefs with your instructor. It's a one instructor to three learners as a ratio. Throughout the day, we will stop and we will have debriefs either in car or whilst we're on foot. That will be one-to-one, and also as a group, so everybody learns from it. And then at the end of each day, you have a one-to-one with your instructor. And that's where you learn your areas of development or the areas which you're particularly strong in. And it is a complete roller coaster, the course. You'll have good days, you'll have bad days, you'll have different emotions, tears, laughter, etc. It's a tough course, and it is pass or fail. But the quality of the instructors, they're all ex-police. They're all surveillance professionals, stroke trainers when they were in the police service. They will get you through it. It's not rocket science. However, we will get it out of you if you've got it. But there are some people, and it manifests itself by probably the end of day two. One thing we can't provide is being natural. You can't teach someone to be natural. If someone just hasn't got that in them, then at the end of day two, it wouldn't be a surprise, but we'd be saying, look, this isn't for you. You're not going to get through the course. You're welcome to stay for the remainder of the course. Or if you prefer, because you're not enjoying it, maybe we'll give you a refund and off you go. Yeah. Some of them, though, will get to that point at the end of day two where we can see there's issues, and it might be, look, it's been highlighted throughout this area you are not getting. So what we offer them is do the whole course. You're not going to pass because you have not passed the foot phase, for example. We would then say to them, we think you've got it in you, but you're just going to need more tuition, more one-to-one. So what we do with those individuals is we will meet them before the next course, and we will do some one-to-one training with them. That might be meeting them in a city and just doing some foot surveillance if that's the area of development which they require. And then we would then say, come on the next course, free of charge. And we will focus on the days which you require. So it's foot surveillance, it'll be days 1 and 2, and then come back for the final exercise, day 5. So if they've got it in them, we will give them that extra tuition. It will cost them nothing, but we want to get it out of them if they've got it. But some people haven't got it. But I would suggest that we have had 4 people since 2017 that haven't made it, but we've had multiple people who have had to come back for extra days just because they need that top up.
That's a good percentage then. That's because obviously that's one of the questions I was going to ask of what is a sort of pass fail rate. So I think you've hit the nail on the head there with a couple of points. Is it's not just a money making exercise for Titan. It's not a case of we'll take on every Tom, Dick, and Harry. We make lots of money on the course. Happy days. I'm loaded. It's more of a case of we genuinely want you to pass, and we do everything in our powers to get you through it if we can. And obviously, the couple of key points, just to sort of summarise what you said there, is that if you're invited back to retrain, there's not an additional cost involved. It's not about pumping people for money to get them through eventually. You're obviously invested in them, and you're obviously showing it in that way to get them through. One of the things that you said as well is about, I have a saying is that you can't teach common sense. And I think you sort of said it in a slightly different way, that you can't teach somebody to be natural. In this job, you've either got it or you haven't. And it's likened to, sort of, I've said before, it's likened to being a swan, that you're thinking about lots of different things. You're thinking about your comms, you're thinking about where you're going, you're watching the subject, you're looking for third-party compromise, and you're doing all that whilst just acting natural and walking down the street. And I know when I spoke to Dan a couple of months ago about it, and obviously talking to you and dealing with the students myself, is they are knackered by the end of each day. They are mentally exhausted.
Yeah, there's a lot to fit in. They've got to do a hell of a lot during that 5 days. And they don't have to do the RQF level 4 process because there comes an admin fee with that. Some people come on the course, I'd say 80% come on the course and they don't do the RQF level 4. They do exactly the same course. The only difference is they don't have to fill a workbook in, which can then be assessed and dip tested for quality. So there's probably a month's worth of work post-course if you want to do the RQF. And they're shattered. They are absolutely shattered. And that's why you have all these emotions, because you've got a little bit of sleep deprivation, because we do 10 to 12 hour days. And then in the evening, when you're at your hotel or Airbnb, or if you're at home, if you live locally, you've then got homework to do. And that might be a recce report or a client report, because we need to make sure that they know what they're doing. They're going to be judged by their first job. And if they're not prepared, then they're not going to make it in the industry. So there's a hell of a lot of work, and they do get tired, very tired.
So one of the things that you just said there about 80% of the students don't do the RQF 4.
Yeah.
What is the difference? Why would people sign up to do it, and why would people not sign up to do it? And what difference does it make in the industry and moving forward?
Okay, so that decision is a completely personal decision. You either want to have a industry recognised certification, or you're just quite happy doing the course and working. That is it. If you do the RQF or if you don't, your work prospects are no different. No one's going to say to you when you start ringing around companies or you speak to people on our resourcing group, they're not going to say, "Can you send me a copy of your surveillance qualification?" They'll just want to know who you've trained with. And if they hear Titan, then they know the quality of our training. So no further questions are generally asked. So it's a completely personal thing. You either want a certificate, which is industry recognised, or you don't. That's it. It's not going to affect your work prospect. It's just going to cost you 420 quid more for the admin fee.
Is this part of future-proofing? Because as we've already said, currently in the UK, private investigation is unregulated. We know that the SIA, who sort of do the sort of door staff quals and stuff like that, there's been a lot of talk for the last couple of years, certainly while I've been in it, and moving forward, is that they're wanting to sort of standardise qualifications and get their foot in the door to try and keep out the rogue operators and standardise it all. Is the RQF something that is trying to future-proof the service, that if you did it, you wouldn't then have to do the SIA course, or is it just something that's completely sort of set aside as such?
So licensing, that's been on the cards for about 18 years.
Yeah.
Has it happened? Has it heck?
No.
I see licensing, the introduction of GDPR, I think that is a form of licensing. They can look at you at any point. The ICO, Information Commissioner's Office, and they can pull you on whether you're sticking to GDPR. It's not licensing, but it's a form of legislation which we have to abide by. And obviously there's people that don't. There was talk about the entry level once it became licensed, which would be the Private Investigators Award, which is an RQF level 3. Most training providers aren't offering that course anymore. I know that it's being pulled, or certainly Skills for Justice, the awarding body we use, we're looking at pulling it. So the answer is I don't know. But if you've got training, if you've got a qualification and licensing does come in, maybe that would be enough. But if you decide not to do the RQF level 4, we can take prior learning into consideration. So it might be that someone comes on our course and they do the 5 days, they pass it. They then work. They then might contact us and say, I want the certification now, the RQF level 4. So we can take all that prior learning and they would just need to come for days 4 and 5, which is day 4 is everything, so mobile and foot, and then day 5 is the final exercise. So even if you decide at the start of the course, I don't want to do it, and you change your mind, that's not a problem. Or if licensing comes in and says you need some sort of qualification, if you trained with us, we can take that prior learning into consideration, and we can then put you through that RQF level 4 process.
Okay. Anything else about your course? I've asked all the questions that I want to ask about your course.
Well, obviously, it's the best. So, although it's a basic level, we offer the advanced syllabus, which the awarding body sets a TQT, a total qualification time. There is no way you could do the full advanced syllabus in 10 days with the Skills for Justice, the awarding body, their stipulated timelines. So, but we do offer the advanced syllabus, bar open source intelligence and nighttime surveillance. So they're getting the advanced package, but they're coming out with a basic if they do the RQF level 4. So we go that extra mile, and that's simply because we use these staff. I mean, you said earlier, it's not a money-making scheme. It's not. And how these businesses who are just training providers manage to have a feasible, business structure, I don't know. We need a minimum of 6 learners on a course just for it to break even. As soon as we go to 9, we then have another instructor, which is just over £1,000 for the week. We've got a new hire car, which is £500. So, as soon as you start adding more students, straight away, just with that, there's another £1,500 worth of fees. Yeah. So how these companies make profit out of it, I don't know. But we're not in it for the profit. There might be some profit that comes out of it. But certainly in the early days, it was subsidised. The training was subsidised by the operational side of the company. So it didn't really make business sense, and it still doesn't make business sense. However, we're bringing new people into the industry which we can use, and obviously it's growing our brand.
Yeah, part of the bigger picture of Titan.
Yeah,
that's a lovely segue that is, because we're also going to talk about what else Titan does. You do Titan TV.
I do, yeah. So YouTube channel. I think we've got 64 episodes. So every Friday at 3 p.m. On Titan PI TV YouTube channel. Initially it was just around answering questions which we get asked commonly. So it was trying to educate people. Then it changed into talking about certain services, and then we're able to put those videos on our service page so that when someone clicks on surveillance or person tracing, you can see my ugly mug talking about the process, how long it takes, how much it costs. So it's up front and people can see that. So it's trying to educate them before they call. But now it's sort of changed to people engaging and saying, can you cover this or can you cover that? So it's changed direction. But yeah, I think it's good for the company. Yeah. It's building that brand again, like the training.
How much flack did you get from other private investigators when you started doing it?
Okay, so I probably thought of this. So we've been running now over a year. So yeah, probably a year and 2 months. It was an idea in my head for probably 2 years before that, so 3 years ago. I didn't do it because I was thinking those keyboard warriors are going to come out at 9 o'clock. They've had a drink, or the haters. Yeah. So it could be a massive fail and damage your brand. However, I'm very lucky to say that certainly on the YouTube side, there's been no poison. There's been no operators who have said, you don't know what you're on about. So for me, I think, well, for the company, I think it's been good.
Yeah, it's. I will like touching wood. Touch wood. It's a bit like what I'm doing with the podcast.
Yeah.
I sort of, on the drive down. It's about an hour's drive down to the studio. I put classical music on, so my brain just wanders off in lots of different directions. And I mean, I've been doing this now. I've been investigating for sort of 27 years of my life, but yet you still get imposter syndrome. You still worry. I mean, obviously the sort of TikTok thing that I'm sort of do at the end of this episode, where I put out little snippets. That's growing and growing. At the moment, it's growing exponentially, which is really exciting. But when my heart still beats quickly when I read the comments about what people are going to put. Because there are comments out there that will either criticise you or you've got that bit wrong, or actually this is we're all human, and I still worry about what people are going to say and whether to do it. And I know sort of this is obviously on YouTube. The most part of my listeners listen to it as a podcast on either Spotify or iTunes, but we've got the camera set up so you can watch this episode on YouTube if you want. But my wife didn't like the fact that I was going to put my face out there and be the public face of Dallas with the sort of the I think she kind of worries sometimes that we might get targeted or something like that.
And because it's your business, I don't know whether you're the same as me, but if I ever get any negativity, I find it a personal attack.
Yeah,
I think you've got to draw yourself away from that. So I remember once we had a landscape gardener. I was saying, we do this at time, we do that. I can't remember which episode it was. And we had this landscape gardener say people who over their website ruin it or something. And it was talking about, you're a one-man band, mate.
Yeah.
So been investigator, tracked him down, got his telephone number, got his address, and then went and had a little word with him. But it was a very friendly word and he took it down. Yeah. So yes, I took it very personally. And sometimes I'll be at a family meal, my phone will ping, and I'll look at a comment and think, that ain't right. And then I'll go into myself and I'm there, but I'm not.
Yeah.
And I think it is really hard what you say there. It's hard to walk away and not take it personally. But I don't think you've had any negativity, and I've probably had one or two on LinkedIn, but certainly none on YouTube. But you don't know, do you?
Yeah,
Someone doesn't like you, they don't like you. If you're putting yourself out there, you're putting yourself out there.
One of the best things I heard was, how can everybody like you when you don't like everybody?
True.
And I thought, that's fine. There are people out there that I just don't get on with. I try and get on with everybody, but there are some people that then.
Yeah, naturally you're not going to like someone, are you?
Yeah, and
I don't like my neighbour. There's another story.
I know, and I know about that story. Probably can't tell it on the podcast, but yeah. So it's. So because we spoke a while back, and I remember you saying to me that you got an idea to do like a Peter Kay styley drive around having a conversation in a car. Yeah, what did I say? Peter Kay?
Yeah, James Corden. He did karaoke, didn't he?
Right, yeah.
So yeah, initially I bought 2 GoPros. It was a waste of $1,000. But I bought 2 GoPros and I thought, I'll set it up, I'll go in my car and I'll pick someone up. And I think I spoke to you about it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put your face on it, It would just be me asking you questions whilst driving around your hometown, Sheffield or Doncaster. It didn't really take off though, and I haven't recorded any, but it's a good idea, isn't it? Maybe one day, hey?
Yeah. I've got another question for you.
Go on then.
How gutted are you that I've got a podcast and you haven't?
I have got a podcast.
Have you?
Yeah.
Oh, I've never listened to it.
Well, it's not.
Is it any good?
So, yeah, because we got so much content now, decided probably about 2-3 months ago to do a podcast. And it's basically...
So after mine then?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Yeah. We've got that content there, so whack the audio on. So yeah, I think it's doing quite well, but I don't really do podcasts other than listen to yours, obviously. But no, I don't really do podcasts. I don't do TikTok either. But I mean, this is you can't teach an old dog tricks, can you?
Well, I think we're of a similar age. I think I'm slightly older than you. He says, blowing smoke up your bum. But obviously, Adam, who does all our stuff here for the podcast, had to show me how to use TikTok. He's like, "Oh, you need to do TikTok first." So he gave me some instructions. So your podcast then, is it taken from the clips of Titan TV or?
Yeah, it's just the audio from it.
So right,
so yeah, because we've got 64 or whatever it is episodes there. We're just releasing one of those a week. I think it goes out on a Friday at 3 p.m. like the YouTube does. And it's just the audio part of the YouTube channel, so you can't see me.
Right.
Yeah, that's it.
So it's more of a sort of snippet-based sort of 10-minute, because obviously your videos are roughly around the sort of 10-minute.
Yeah, 7 to 10 minutes, yeah. Some are longer, but yeah, it's about 10 minutes. Not like yours, which are about an hour.
Yeah. Well, it's different.
What I like about that, though, because when you first sent me the link, you said, what do you think about this? This is going to be, it's not being released yet. This is my first podcast. And I thought it was an hour. I thought to myself, I didn't say it. I thought, when the hell am I going to have an hour?
Yeah.
And I don't do podcasts. But I tell you what I did. I listened to it in 15-minute snippets and I thought it was really good.
Oh, thank you. That's why you're on the show.
That's it.
You can come again. That's all you're doing, isn't it? Like, I'll butcher him up now. You can come on again. I said that to Dan. He can come on again, but just being busy. But yeah, he could come back. So, what's the future plan for Titan TV? Then you've done 64 episodes.
Yeah. Don't know.
Is it going to continue? Have you got more ideas? Or?
No. So I'm running out of ideas.
I like your honesty.
I am running out of ideas. In fact, we're recording 4 tomorrow because we do a month in advance. And to be fair, we're redoing some because things have changed. Prices have changed because some of them are a year old. So I think in the future, it's probably going to be redoing certain topics. But yeah, I am getting a bit dry on content, but it's a massive drain, time drain and financially, recording one a week. Yeah. And then putting it out there.
That's why I decided to do one a month, because I wanted quality over quantity for the podcasts, but I was also mindful that we kind of have a finite number of frequently asked questions and stories that we can tell on the show. So I thought if I do a one a month, that gives me another 4 weeks of working jobs that I can then talk about in the future. Because one thing that I've sort of realised that the original plan for Diary of a Private Investigator was to talk about the jobs that I've been on this month, but then I realised that there may well come a point that if I'm talking about a job that's live, somebody might be listening to it, because obviously as the podcast grows, as do the viewers and listeners grow and grow and grow. And obviously I realised that there might be a point there I'm actually putting something out that on a job that I did last week and somebody might listen to it. So I'm kind of...
And it's giving the haters ammo, isn't it?
Yeah.
Why are you discussing a job? But yeah, I've done it on the YouTube channel. You know, I'll discuss a job. But if we do that, we're going to have, firstly, it's going to be sanitised. And secondly, we're going to have permission from the client.
Yeah.
But yeah, that could quite easily bring the haters out, I suggest.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I kind of cover over the details. I don't generally go into where it happened or you know, don't mention names and stuff like that, but the details are a little bit bland. I haven't actually changed any details yet, but I can see a point in time where if I'm drilling down on the particulars of a job, I might just have to change it geographically or something like that to just so anybody who listens to it. I mean, obviously, I've got one story which I'll tell on a future episode about when I was found underneath somebody's car trying to remove a GPS tracker, and they stood over me and sort of said, "Can I help you?" There are details in that story that if I was to tell it, probably give it away as to where it was and who it was and what have you. So I have to think about how I'm going to get around that story. So
well, it can happen, can't it?
Yeah.
I mean, although you can put as much planning and preparation into a tracker deployment or whatever we do, there is an element of luck. And if someone comes out their front door when you're under the car, but you know, there's some operators out there that I think one of them left his wallet under a car. That's just bad planning, isn't it? I mean, come on. But the subject coming out after you've, you know, risk assessed it and made an assessment, then so be it. But I remember when that operative did that, so he didn't realise he'd left his wallet. It wasn't one of my jobs, but I heard about it because obviously that goes around like wildfire. He didn't realise he'd left it. And then the subject or whoever's car it was found it, handed it to the police. Police went and had a word with him. But for months after that, there were people having a picture of a car and putting flip-flops under it and saying, guess this person's been here. I won't mention his name. I don't even know if he's still in the industry.
Oh, that's brilliant. I once got a burglar who did that. Dropped his wallet at scene of the crime, and he had to explain it away. And
did he?
Yeah, no,
get away with it.
No, he went to prison.
Yeah,
it was brilliant.
Result.
Yeah, absolute result. He was. I think he came out with some convoluted story about how somebody had nicked his wallet and must have and then went off and did the burglary and and did all that. And then I think he was a bit of a pants burglar, because I'm pretty certain, if memory serves, that he cut himself on the window on the way out as well.
Left his blood.
Yeah, so it was one of those interviews where you do the interview, you give them all the rope to hang themselves, and he came out with this great convoluted story about the wallet, and then I went, so what about the forensics at the scene with the blood? And he was like,
You got me.
yeah, I probably could have saved half an hour of my life by discussing it earlier, but I just thought, well, let's have some fun with him and see his face strain. So yeah, that was that. Right. Okay. So we've covered your background. We've covered the training programs, and we've covered Titan TV. I'm mindful of time, that we don't sort of push it all out there. I've asked all the questions that I want to ask, and what I think people who are wanting to become a private investigator ask. Is there anything that you feel like, in fact, I've just turned into police mode now, haven't I? This is the end of the peace interview.
This is your chance.
To
tell me.
Yeah, this is your opportunity to tell me now. Is there anything that?
Caution me in a minute, aren't you?
Well, when we sat down opposite each other. Obviously, Adam sat up the chairs, and instantly I was like, "Well, this is confrontational. You never sit opposite the person that you're interviewing. You always have to sit. You have to sit at the diagonal, don't you? So it's less confrontational. And you talk to him like that. So it's. But there you go. We've got through it. Anything else that you want to add about
anyone that wants to get into this? Firstly, you need to do a course. If you've decided to do a course, I would suggest that the majority of operational work is surveillance, so you need to do a surveillance course. Look at that provider. Do they do an RQF, an industry recognised qualification? The answer needs to be yes, so you have the choice. You then need to look at the company and see where they're geographically based for you. And lastly, you need to know what opportunities there are post-course. Pointless doing a course. We all offer the same course. But you're going to need a leg up. You're going to need introductions to work. And that's where we differ. So first of all, is it an RQF? Secondly, where is the course geographically? And thirdly, you need to make sure there's real opportunities post-course.
Excellent.
Sound.
All right. So we'll wrap that one up. So thank you for coming.
No, thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
No problems. And we'll talk again soon.
Nice one.
Cheers. So, tracing part 2. Last week or so, I released a video on TikTok explaining about trying to track people down, what you can do, what you can't do, and the way that we do it. There's a couple of points that I didn't include in that previous video. Is to do a trace on somebody, we would generally need their name and their date of birth or their age. However, had an inquiry the other day saying, can you track this person down? Yes, blah, blah. They came around and sort of, in the end, and sort of said, don't worry about it, we're going to do it ourselves. Yes, there are systems out there that you can subscribe to. For example, 192.com, where you can track somebody down if they're on their database. 1, you pay for it. 2, however, it leaves a trace. So if somebody does a credit check through either Experian or whatever, they will see who has been looking for them and trying to find them. The systems that we use as private investigators, and certainly the systems that I use as a private investigator, do not leave a footprint. So they will not know that they have been tried to be tracked down. Is that important or is it not? It's down to the individual. The systems that we use are only available for investigators. Therefore, the systems talk to various other databases out there. It's not just a case of doing an electoral search. Is a person registered there? You will find that certain people who want to be evading us will register everything at an address, but actually live elsewhere. The systems that we use, in its simplest term, will leave a heat source at another address where they are living at. And then that, by a heat source, I kind of mean, are they having deliveries there by certain companies? We can access information that will indicate that a person is actually living at the address. So yes, you can do it yourself. Yes, you can do away and do a cheaper version. But what I have found in my experience is that when I subscribe to the cheaper databases, they tend to be less successful. So you might think you've got a result, whereas actually, if they're evading you, you're better off paying more money, getting the better systems and doing it that way. So Another frequently asked question that I get quite often is, can I track somebody down from their number plate? Whether I've had one person ask me that they want to buy the number plate off the person, can I find out who they are? But also there are other reasons that they want somebody following, surveilling, whatever, and all they've got is a number plate. The short answer is no, you can't get their personal details from their number plate. The long answer is yes, you can. There are certain criteria that the DVLA will give you a person's keeper details, but there is a strict number of reasons why you can get it. Things like, has the vehicle been involved in an accident? Arguably, they'll turn around and say, go through your insurance company. Do you need to give them a parking ticket? Again, parking tickets, the company that do it need to be part of the British Parking Association. So again, only certain companies will be allowed the access to the number plates. Has it done a drive off? So are you a business? Is it abandoned on your land? And is it insurance fraud? Generally speaking, within the private investigation world, none of those criteria are met. I am yet to know that DVLA have ever given a private investigator private information on somebody's number plate because it doesn't meet those type of criteria. More often than not, you're going to go to the police and the police will obtain those details for you. I am aware that there are certain investigators out there who will tell you that they can do it, and the way that they are doing it, I'm of the belief that they have a contact in either DVLA or for the police who can access their databases and get that information. Clearly that is illegal. So it can be done, and it can be done for the right amount of money, but at Dollis Investigations, we don't do anything that's not ethical or illegal.